I don't think there's anything that indicates a need for socialism more than incels. Like there's gonna be like a really good like there are tons of really good reasons to be socialist, right? Like there are all kinds of like economic arguments you can make. There are all kinds of different ways that materially it would improve people's lives. But oh yeah, I mean, part of it is showing incels that patriarchy is the problem. Definitely, that's definitely part of it. However, I think another part of it is that capitalism atomizes people, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about atomization and how that works, right? Because Floofy boy, funny stuff. But because like people are essentially broken down into individual units in capitalism. You know, you are a disposable cog in a machine. You are alienated from society because that makes you more vulnerable and more committed to your work, right? It makes you more efficient if you have nothing else going on in your life aside from consumption and working so that you can continue to consume. So like, hey now, Brian, don't violate Twitch terms of service, okay? Hello, Scouter. But like, here's the thing, like, incels, whatever you might think of them, whatever low opinion you might hold of them, you don't become an incel when everything's going well in your life, right? Like, you don't specifically, you don't join an incel community if everything is going well in your life. Like, people don't do that, and I think that the like part of what has made the alt-right so successful in recent years is that they have recognized the atomization of incels. Like, there's a reason Steve Bannon talked openly about going on gamer forums and finding like young vulnerable men who were disaffected from society and who were lonely, and he talked about radicalizing them. And he talked about this because they were in a vulnerable position to find community. This is by the way why a lot of incels go to incel communities, because they feel judged by the wider world. And I think that this is largely a failure of feminism on this front, because feminism should be inclusive. As feminists, if we are feminist, and I believe we should be if we are also socialists, then I believe that we have a duty to address the underlying problems that lead people to, if not, maybe this is the wrong terminology, like become incels, but buy into incel ideology, right? Because there's like a large number of reasons why someone might not have sex. And there's nothing to be looked down upon in like whether or not you do have sex. But our society puts so much pressure on men to be performing sexually, and meanwhile, while breaking them down and isolating them from society. And I think that this is a fundamentally, like, only an issue that's going to grow in intensity over time. Um, the first incel was a woman. She wanted to foster a community of people who could better themselves. It eventually devolved into what it is today and co-opted by neckbeard types. Yeah, yeah. This is also a factual thing, Girl Hugger. Also, I don't think I've seen you before, and thank you very much for the follow. And I hope you enjoy your time here. But I just don't see how this would be any different than saying white supremacists should be socialists. Don't we risk co-option of our movements? Well, I also think that white supremacists should be socialists. I think that, and when I say that, by the way, I don't mean that white supremacy should be incorporated into socialism, but what I do mean is that we need to get to these people who are vulnerable to radicalization and bring them over to our side before they get radicalized to the alt-right, because that's something that is extremely dangerous and is happening more and more prevalently. So in my opinion, financial situation has little to do with being an incel. Plenty of somewhat favored guys became incels. Well, so there's a couple of problems here, right? So first off, you have the what I'll call the social problem, right? So On the one hand, we are all exist in a society that largely caters to gender norms, and a lot of people learn their gender norms from media. And in media, men tend to be valorized for having sex. Um, they tend to be held up as like the epitome of masculineness if you are having sex. You know, the typical like boys will be boys kind of thing, right? And I find that that rhetoric is incredibly harmful. I think that this makes a lot of men, and especially a lot of young men, feel very vulnerable, or not very vulnerable, but like very emasculated, especially if they find themselves struggling on the romantic front. And like, there's a lot of reasons people can struggle on a romantic front, especially like if you're a teenager. Like, guys, if you're watching this and you're a teenager, you're gonna be awkward for a while, and it's not your fault. It's literally your body is just going through an incredibly awkward time, and it'll get better once you get through it. Okay. Um, but let's see. A lot of these groups gain traction via disenfranchised youths. Exactly. Sack gets full, man. I don't know what that means, but like this is part of a problem, right? Like, and then on top of that, like romantic comedies or things that are played off for laughs in movies or television are frequently modeling very problematic behavior as well, including like stalking and other forms of behavior. So when you try and like as a man, if you try and model that in society, it is extremely off-putting to many people. So like it's there's this problem, and then especially like you get that further reinforced from other men in your life and even other women. There are plenty of women who judge men based off of harmful stereotypes, and like again, we as feminists, we need to counteract these narratives. So that's one aspect of the problem, right? The other aspect is that to some extent, from the data I've seen, there is some validity to incel claims. It is getting harder and harder for men to find romantic partners. And now this can be due to a number of reasons, whether it's due to technology, which, online dating certainly has changed a lot of things in this regard. But also one of the fundamental things, and I think that largely this is a problem in the incel community and part of incel ideology that I would hope to, the lockdown hasn't helped, but this is a part of incel ideology that I would hope to kind of counteract, right? And this is the idea that increasingly it's hard for men to have sex. This is actually pretty true given what we've seen in the trends. And incels now, they put this down to the fact that like culture has moved on and women are they're off having sex with the chads, and so incels are just kind of left to rot, and there's no one who wants to have sex with incels, blah 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 blah. However, the actual issue is, and this might not this to some extent doesn't have any relationship to your individual wealth if you're an incel. Because there are a lot of incels that come from wealthy backgrounds, and there are also a lot of incels that come from poor backgrounds. But part of the problem is, as society has moved onward and we have entered late-stage capitalism, men and women are now required to work. So, for example, a lot of incels kind of have this inclination to say that like society has degenerated. It's full of degenerates, and this is why it's harder to find women. However, the main issue from my research seems to be that like it's less that culture and has moved on or evolved, and more to do with the fact that we as society, our capitalism, the thing that we need for our economy to function in its current state, is essentially that you now need women working in the workforce, unless you are in an extremely fringe case, right? So even if you're a couple, like you're in a couple, you're in a relationship, both of you still need to work largely to meet ends meet, right? Um, if you are in a single relationship, um, you still need to work a lot to make ends meet. There is no longer the economic incentive that women had back in like the 1950s, 1940s, to get married to a man and become like a stay-at-home mother. And this isn't because women have moved on from that. There are lots of women out there who want to get married and raise kids, and that's all they really aspire to be, and that's totally fine. Um, but it's because economically, as a society, that's no longer an attainable thing for most people. Yeah, the minimum wage has stagnated for about 50 years. So, like, it's just that this form of life that was leading people to marriage is kind of dwindling and shrinking as economic opportunities on a societal level have shrunk. Economic mobility is at the worst, the all-time worst in the United States. And among developed countries, the United States ranks among the lowest when it comes to economic mobility. So, like, there are all of these problems piled up on top of each other, and and the reason I'm talking about marriage, I haven't made the link here yet, is because people who are married have way more sex. And if fewer and fewer people are getting married, fewer and fewer people are having sex. So this has become an ongoing issue. And this is why, you have people going like, oh, the Chads are, having all the one-night stands with the Stacys, yada, yada, yada. But, like, I was trying to adjust my glasses. I'm not wearing them. Been married, not always true. Yeah, it's not always true. And it's worth remembering that everything that I'm saying here is talking about, like, generalizations. So, like, from a sociological perspective, these are all issues. And there's also, like, yeah, the idealization of virginity, as well as it's the idealization of virginity in women mixed with the like the social stigma of being a virgin if you're a man. There's all kinds of awful things that are going on here, right? So it's difficult to know where to start with all of this, but I think that one of the thank you for the follow, Creamy Colon Juices. I appreciate it. Gosh. Well, yes, there is less pressure for women to settle down. This is true, but there's also more pressure for women to maintain their economic independence, largely because, tying yourself down with a potential partner who might not be economically solvent anymore is something that could ruin both your lives. It's this is one of the things I just want to talk about. I think being exposed to how many people exist in the world opens up what people's expectations for a relationship are more than it used to be. Well, that too. You can now take a look at singles in your area, and there are thousands of them, and you can just swipe all day and night and like go through all of them, especially if you live near a city. But like this is part of like a collection of issues that puts a lot of men into a place where they feel cornered and trapped. Like if you go into an incel community, all of these people are like doomering about their like prospects, right? Like they're doomering about their future, they're doomering about their own selves, they're like stewing in this soup of self-hatred. And a lot of that is because they are stewing in it alone. Like they've been completely atomized by society down to just being a worker. They don't have the ability to pursue women, whether that's due to how they've been socialized or due to the ideology they've accepted from incel communities, what have you. So there's this issue, there's the economic issue and the economic reality. And so this is why I say that incels should be socialists, because socialism addresses the atomization they experience. It addresses the basic needs that they require to be met in order to live healthy and productive lives, and it would allow them more time to reconnect with their communities, reconnect with like women in their communities, and be able to undo this kind of absolutely oppressive misogyny that keeps them from interacting with the wider world. Because I'm someone who fell into similar lines of thinking, like especially when I was younger, right? Like it's one of those things where like you feel so hopeless and it feels like there's nothing you can do, but like I'm here to tell you guys, like there's absolutely things you can do, because a lot of the hopelessness, a lot of the doomerism, a lot of the like fatalism you experience, it's largely a result of your own like building all of these things up, right? Like I saw this the other day, and it tends to be true even in my experience. If you act hot, people see you as hot. And like this sounds really dumb and simple, but it's also very true in my own experience. It's something where faking confidence, faking hotness, whatever that means, gets you really far in life. It works when it comes to like going into the office and like trying to portray yourself as confident or competent, and it works also when it comes to dating. You know, confidence is frequently one of the number one things people cite as an attractive quality, right? And so like, yeah, be faking confidence at the very least, pretending to be confident. That is something that you can definitely do, no matter where you are in the incel community. There's hope for you. And I just want to say that, like, if you are an incel and you're watching this, you're not alone, right? Like, I want what's best for you too. I want you to get laid. I want you to thrive and survive and have an extremely happy and productive life. You know, whatever that means to you. And I am also here to tell you that that sort of a life is possible. You just need to work together with us. You know, we need socialism to undo the awful situations that you have found yourself in and have been othered by. Let's see. I think taking the burden off 40-plus hour work week so people have more time to interact would be more of a net benefit for social endeavors. Absolutely, left side Phil. Like that's another thing. Like the only reason we work 40-hour work weeks right now is because it profits people at the top of companies. There's no like we don't have to work that much. We're like exponentially more productive than we were like 20 years ago. But we are still working 40-hour weeks. Some people are working 60-hour weeks. Some people are working 100-hour weeks, you know? And let's see. Floofy boy. I mean, incel often begins during high school years where incels get frustrated. Other guys all get girlfriends and he doesn't. I think there are people who aren't incels but have problems with the opposite sex. It seems to be increasing a lot. A 4-day work week would be amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Like, part of the reason, by the way, like the United States has a problem with obesity is because we don't have, like, if you're an average worker, you don't have time to go and like take a walk outside. You know, you have to be working all the time. You know, you don't have time to even hit the gym, right? Because you're exhausted after a day of work. Like, some people can make that work for them. It's true. Some people can. Not everyone. Imagine how much easier it would be if you had a 3-day weekend every week. You know, or you were only working 25 hours a week and could still make ends meet, you know? Yeah, this is something that I think that like would inherently benefit a lot of people. Not, and again, my goal isn't just to benefit incels. My goal is to benefit everyone, and I think that this is a path forward for us. Okay, I'm here to tell you not to doomer, whether or not you're a leftist or a conservative or whatever. I'm here to tell you not to doomer, that there is a way forward, and that way is largely embracing socialism, to undo this system that we have all collectively found ourselves in, that makes us need to work ungodly amounts of time in order to just to survive. And I think that one of the things incels find is that just surviving is sometimes not enough. Sometimes you need genuine connections with other people. And I don't think that this is a problem that is limited just to incels. Incels are just a group of people who have banded together to create a community that largely helps them get through this sort of alienation. They get through it in a very toxic way, but it helps them get through. And that is the main attraction of those communities. So I'm here to say that I think we as socialists, we as leftists, we need to do a better job of communicating to incels exactly how we can help them with our approach to politics, with our approach to the world, with our approach to what we think they deserve. Because honestly, incels don't deserve mockery. They don't deserve spite. They don't deserve hatred. They don't deserve anything like that. What they deserve is a fair shake and the ability to reconnect with their wider community. And that's something I think socialism provides them. And also, if we don't provide it to them, white nationalists will. Fascists will. And that should be something to worry about. That should be something to worry about.